Hi, I'm librettist Matt Boresi, co-founder of the Decameron Opera Coalition. On October 1st, 2021, the Decameron Opera Coalition revealed Heroes, its newest work, 8 world premiere works on the subject of heroism, large, small, past, and present. One of those works is the newly commissioned opera, The Widow's Will, about Chicagoan Hazel Johnson, known as the mother of environmental justice. With me is the team behind The Widow's Will and Chicago Fringe Opera. Let's meet these folks. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm going to I'll call out your first name, and if you could tell me your name and what you did on the project, folks will be very appreciative, I'm sure. In the squares I'm looking at order, let's go with KF Jacques.
All right, I am Kari KF Jacques Laurent, and I did the photography, cinematography, and also the editing for the film.
And the keen observer will know, of course, that Kari is the genius composer and librettist and performer behind Corsair, which was part of last year's Decameron Opera Coalition film, and was recently given an encore performance on Navy Pier in late September. So congratulations on all this, Corsair.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine O'Shaughnessy, and I was music director and conductor.
Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rudolph. I am the composer.
Wonderful. And Bilal.
Hi, I'm Bilal Dardai, and I am the librettist.
Well, welcome everybody. Congratulations on the piece. It's a beautiful piece. Some folks who are watching this have already seen it and are here to hear more. Some folks are going to learn about it so that they can go off and see it. So with that in mind, I don't know exactly who to direct this question to, but I'd love to find out about your subject. Who is Hazel Johnson, and how did you settle upon her as the subject for your Heroes opera?
I mean, I guess I can take that question. So when we first started meeting as a team and we were having conversations about who we would pick as our subject, I think there were a handful of things that were important to us. One of them, because this is Chicago Fringe Opera, we felt it was important to try to find a Chicagoan. And as we were just kind of like looking through stories of we were looking for stories of maybe lesser known Chicagoan heroes, people who are less sung, which is not an intended pun, but is a pun nonetheless. When we were looking at the larger list that we had compiled, I know for me, and I'm pretty sure for Elizabeth as well, like Hazel just jumped right out at us as like the obvious choice, not just for her, not just for the life and work that she had done as somebody who was fighting sort of industrial pollution within her South Side community, but also just as a larger idea of, as you mentioned, environmental justice, this idea that that the health and welfare of the living environment where people are housed is a social justice movement as well, which is something that she was one of the first people to really start talking about. And I think when you look at activists working today, when you look at people like Greta Thunberg and many other activists who we were looking at, a lot of their work like stands on the shoulders of things that Hazel Johnson started talking about in decades prior. So yeah, I think that's a good way to say that how we found like her to be the subject.
Very good. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Hazel Johnson passed away in 2011. But right. We're more familiar now than ever with what she started in the city of Chicago. Certainly, there's been a lot just this year, a lot of talk about where the polluting industries are doing their dirty work, and of course, far beyond Chicago. So bravi to your whole team on such a wonderful subject, appropriate, of course, to Chicago Fringe Opera, but to the world. This is an opera, so prima la musica. We should talk about the score first. Elizabeth, how did you decide how this was going to sound?
Well, I knew I wanted to evoke nature, and one of the biggest forces of nature in Chicago is fresh water. We have both a river and a huge lake, which obviously we share with, Wisconsin and Michigan. But the river, especially the south side of the river, managed to earn itself through pollution the ugly nickname Bubbly Creek. And it sounds cute, but really it was because the stockyards were dumping into the river, using it as a sewer. And so I wanted to evoke, we're still cleaning it up today, let's put it that way. Like, these regulations have been put in place, and decades later, we're still doing cleanup. I wanted to evoke the flowing river. I wanted to evoke a big Midwestern thunderstorm, because I think there's a crisis happening. And so I started out with these flowing themes, and then I used the pizzicato theme in the middle to evoke sort of the industrial factory sounds, steel mill sounds. So that's where that came from.
Marvelous. And there's a big dumping story about Lake Michigan in the news today, the day that we're recording this, a huge story about pollution in the lake. So once again, perhaps unfortunately, this piece is incredibly apropos to the times. Catherine, tell me more about this music and interpreting this music and getting it from Elizabeth's black dots into the air and into the of the audience.
Well, it's my favorite thing. I haven't had much of a chance to do it over the past year, to get a piece and dig in like this. So it's been a real privilege. For this project, we worked with Fifth Wave Collective, which is a local Chicago organization focused on the works of female identifying composers. And so given the female subject and the female composer, it seemed like a perfect partner. And they have a quintet that's a quartet that's their resident string quartet, and an oboist who is one of their co-founders. And they're working together a lot right now during the pandemic as a chamber ensemble. And it seemed ideal to write this piece for that set group. And it was really a joy to work with them. And also just something that, Libby she didn't talk so much about her style because she's shy, I guess. But there's a certain minimalistic character to it that I think really suits the subject, because it continues on inexorably. Like, the work is never done. There is change, there is evolution, but the work is never done. And I think when the piece ends, you really are left with that feeling. And so it's been really a joy to delve into it in that way.
I was privileged to write an art song to frame this piece, like to lead us into this piece. And when I heard the score and read the libretto and saw how it is about the persistence that it takes to be a hero and a change maker, not to just be sort of great or fabulous or impactful or capital G great for a moment, but that it takes persistence. I base the song around that, and I do feel like it's so baked into your piece, the notion that this does go on, this must go on. Quite admirable. Bilal, you are known around Chicago and internationally for your writing, and you got a very eclectic style. You're a dramatist, you're an improviser, you're a podcast writer. Is this your first opera?
It is my first foray into this art form.
So tell me what it was like to tackle opera, and then specifically this piece.
It's harrowing. Honestly, it's a little terrifying. I think I have had up until this point maybe a distant appreciation for opera. I've been to a few operas. I've listened to some opera. I am not nearly as experienced in this form as everybody else on this call is. And I think I think I described it in one meeting as like watching figure skaters, where it was just like everything looks impressive to me. So I was just strapping on my own skates and hoping to do my best. But I think that part of what allowed me to get into this particular piece was that I use a technique that I've used before in other performance pieces of mine, which is the curation of found text. All of Hazel's words in this piece are taken directly from interviews and newspaper clippings, and a really amazing clip from several years ago of her at a town hall meeting, speaking directly to somebody from the city. And I found that her words on their own were powerful enough that I didn't need to or want to create anything to put into her mouth. And at the same time, it was also kind of a lucky, lucky thing that I had not realized that Chicago's motto was Herbs and Orto, which is city in a garden, which fit beautifully in the themes we were talking about. And I think finding those pieces of text helped build the arc that you described, this idea of like persistence and the idea of what it takes to be a change maker. And so I think having those touch points and then just kind of immersing myself in last year's Decameron and other pieces of opera that were recommended to me allowed me to at least ease my way into this project.
Well, let me ask Elizabeth how you did.
His libretto is so clear and so concise, and it's so powerful in its like simplicity. It made it really easy to set.
Thank you.
It's really lovely.
It's I've looked at that libretto as a libretto, like just the words on the page, and you would think that Bilal had written 100 operas. I mean, it is so like clean and singerly and concise, and all those classically operatic uses of brevity but power. Marvelous. Well, it is an operatic film, so we are not only listening to it, we are looking at it. And I don't think I'm out of line in saying that Chicago Fringe Opera does a lot of work that is, if not site-specific, frequently site-specific, but about place and deals with place, contends with place, including, of course, Corsair. So, Kari, tell me about what we're going to see or what we have seen and how it came to be.
The most thrilling part I feel about this piece is I had an opportunity to go to the site where Hazel Johnson did most of her work, which is Altgeld Gardens, and it's where she lived, and it's what she was fighting for. So we shot everything. We shot our Hazel character, Amanda as Hazel. We had some shots with our press character, and we had a lot of drone shots and B-roll exteriors. There's a famous yellow wall that's there that's very significant because it has all the names of all these activists through the civil rights movement, et cetera, and people that have passed away but left some sort of legacy for the area. And it's an important landmark for that area. So anyone who knows the story or knows Hazel Johnson would know those little bits and pieces that are appearing. So luckily, we had the opportunity to just film everything on the location where everything happened. So that was my favorite part about shooting it.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I have a question for any and all of you. You've all been quite prolific artistically throughout the pandemic. And unfortunately, we're still in the pandemic. I don't think we thought we'd still be here right now. Although perhaps things are a little bit more open, and some of us have had some live things more recently. So this project, Heroes, is not just a survival project, like to keep opera alive in the pandemic. This is a deliberate choice to continue to make operatic film and to distribute to a wider audience than you might see from so much of the work that we've done that's been hyper-local. What have you learned over the course of the last year that you've been able to bring to The Widow's Will?
Well, if I can take the lead on this. I think one of the questions we asked ourselves going into this was not to think about all the things that we couldn't do since we're not in a theater, but rather to think of all the things that we never were able to do before because we were in a theater. And that's bringing in different media. I mean, I think Kari does a fabulous job of making the most of the medium of film. And we're able to tell stories in different ways on location, sharing those spaces with people. It's not sharing the traditional theater space, but it's sharing a different kind of space. And that's why it's important to us to continue this. We feel like there's a branch to the art form that we never had explored before, partly because we were so comfortable doing the work that we're so in love with in theaters. But now that we have branched out into this and learned some new skills, I think it's something we want to continue to pursue.
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback on that to say that, I think having the ability to work in like a film medium, or as I was doing a lot of work in the audio medium, like they absolutely increase accessibility for the audience. You find yourself able to reach people who either would not have been able to see the show live because of timing or because of locale. That you're able to reach a wider group of people who otherwise would never. It's like they missed the show. And the show in theater, a lot of times the show is done and it's over. And there is something that is powerful about having given some more opportunity to even though the opportunity was born in large part because of limitations, because of the inability for theater to be what theater usually is.
I think there's also an argument to be made for the scope of some of these, where certainly you could write a 3-hour opera about Hazel Johnson. That would not be a big ask. You could use a full orchestra, you could use, a full chorus and all that. But to put it into like a 15-minute piece with a string quartet and 3 singers, there's a distillation that happens that almost makes it more potent.
Yeah.
Well, it is an extremely potent piece. And if people have already seen it and they've come to learn more, I hope they were enlightened by hearing more about the process. If they haven't seen it, run, don't walk to Decameron Coalition, operacoalition.org. The piece is The Widow's Will, world premiere operatic film commissioned by Chicago Fringe Opera. K.F. Jacques, Catherine O'Shaughnessy, Elizabeth Rudolph, and Bilal Dardai, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.